Boys and girls, welcome to another edition of MR2 Spyder for Dummies. This means you. No, I'm just kidding, of course. Alright, today we're going to do a very quick walkthrough on the valve cover gasket and replacing the valve cover gasket. Okay, and this engine is a 1ZZ-FE, same as what you have in the Toyota MR2 Spyder. In this particular case, the chassis is a Pontiac Vibe, but it makes no difference. The engine is exactly the same, and I just want to use it to show you a few of the important things that you go through. Okay, so replacing the valve cover gasket, why do you need to do it? The gasket seals this valve cover onto the head below, and as it ages with heat cycling and so on, the gasket, which is made of rubber, hardens, and then eventually it loses its pliability and its ability to seal, so it begins to leak oil. And where you're going to see oil, okay, is in a few places, and I'm going to point out to you. This is how you will know that you need to replace your valve cover gasket. This tab right here, when you have a leaking gasket, it will be covered in oil. This tab right here, okay, this is facing the front. Then you have a tab in the rear, similar tab right here that I'm showing you, okay, and this has some oil on it, okay. And then you have a third tab right here. Okay, so the two tabs are on the corners in the rear of the engine, pointing to the rear. Okay, here it is. And when your valve cover is leaking, you will see oil in these areas. And this tells you that you're ready for a valve cover gasket replacement. Okay, so the steps are pretty easy. I'll go through them very quick. First, you remove the breather hose, get it out of the way. Then you remove the PCV hose. Okay, get it out of the way. Okay, then you have 4 coils over the 4 spark plug wells. Each one is held down with an M6 bolt with a 10mm head. So you remove the bolts, but first, before you can remove the coils, you have to remove this electrical rail, and it has 2 studs with M6 nuts, or they have 10mm socket heads. So you remove this rail, okay, get it out of the way, just move it out of the way as much as you can. Alright, now you're ready to remove the coils, and at this point you will often see that the coil has oil on it. That's because the internal portions of the valve cover gaskets are leaking oil down into the spark plug well. Alright, so we set the coils aside. Alright, then we need to remove the bolts that are fastening the valve cover to the head. You have 2 bolts in the center of the valve cover. I've already pre-loosened them and removed them. Okay, don't forget to remove these. If you don't remove these 2 bolts, the valve cover will not come out. Then you have this riser, which has a 12mm nut at the top. You remove it. Okay, and this leaves you with a few more fastening points. You have a stud right here and a stud right here, and these have nuts on top of them, so they're 10mm nuts, M6 10mm. Okay, so you remove these, and you have a bolt that's here, so I've already removed. You have a bolt over the side right here that has a riser for the harness. So first you unfasten this plastic clip from the riser, and then you can remove the bolt and remove the riser. Okay, so after that we have bolts on the rear, and they are 10mm hex, and one in the corner here and one right here, and that takes care of it. This means that everything is free, and with some jiggling, usually you can just take the valve cover right off. and you'll be looking at the top of the head, and you see these areas that I talked about now where oil can come out from the rocker cover and leak out onto the flanges. Okay, now what you want to do is that you want to clean this flange very thoroughly. Get any oil off of this flange as much as you can. Get it spick and span clean. Okay, get everything as clean as possible before you put the valve cover back on with the new gasket. And then there's nothing to it. It's just the reverse of removal. One thing that I do suggest is when you place the valve cover in this channel, where you place the gasket in this channel, okay, use some adhesive compound. Alright, use some adhesive compound, just rubber adhesive. It's like rubber cement. And then the gasket will stay in place. It will not fall out when you flip this cover over. The other thing you have to do that I will remind you of is that at these two joints, one on the front of the engine, one on the back rearward side, you have the joints where the timing cover meets the head. And at these locations, you have to put a dab of FIPG, fixed in place gasket compound. Okay, and this is what's suggested in the Toyota repair manual. So just on top of this seam, you will put a dab of FIPG before you replace the valve cover with the new gasket. Okay. So that's it. Hope this helps you. Thanks for watching.